Now, I'll move on to leveraging data and automation in
Right.
terms of driving profit margins. Now, to your knowledge, how are airlines utilizing data and automation to improve operational efficiency and increase margins? Based on what you just said, I think not a lot of them are doing this, but
No.
yeah, how many are actually doing this?
And unfortunately, I would say it's not just an airline problem. I think it's a lot of legacy companies have built processes that are very siloed. And so in decision making or in offer creations, also in their process evolutions, they have siloed approaches to it. So look, in the airline business, you're touching a customer physically when they get onto an airplane and when they check in, assuming you want to say check in is necessary. And you engage a customer on board the airplane and when they come out of the airplane, and with airports as well, they've got to be transported. So every process that touches that customer can't be manual given the scale of where we're going and the growth of air transportation across the globe. And so when you think of all of the mishaps that have happened over the last 3 years, look at what weather did to Southwest this year. The basic things that have been ignored, first of all, and one of the reasons you see some of these things happening is your crew scheduling software, right, is your operational software. They don't talk to each other. That's one.
Yeah.
Pretty clear across most airlines. That's a challenge, right? And so your data, when you have a weather situation, is how quickly can you optimize your network? So shut it down, start it back up in the shortest period of time. And knowing where all your people are, knowing where all the bags are, right? It got lost this year and it got lost last year in Europe, right? Because those systems don't talk to each other. The data is not in a centralized fashion that you can actually deliver that information at real time. In COVID, when airlines were shutting down, they needed to know how much money they had in the books, how many tickets were used, how many tickets were partially used, and so what they needed to refund or how much they needed to refund. They couldn't figure that out because the data on how a ticket was sold and how a ticket was refunded or repriced, two systems and the data didn't talk to each other, right? And so you have all these disconnects across the entire system that makes automation difficult. Automation comes from data. It doesn't come from just wishing it to happen. The algorithms that make it happen. There's learning and intelligence that makes it happen, but it's data. It's accounting for processes and keystrokes you make and decisions you make and making them for you and using data to drive that. And fundamentally, if you don't have that practice across your business and across all your multiple key groups, right, in such a way that it's in unison, you're not going to achieve much. And and the use of AI today. Think of data in very simple terms. On a runway, we've got to check for debris. On the taxiway, you check for debris.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
People are doing that manually in most airports. Now you're using cameras, digital cameras, and you're using AI and ML to sort of understand all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And use automated drones and things like that to figure out what's on the runway and get them picked up and cleared out. That process alone is expensive, right? In many that's an operational issue, right?
Yeah.
Now, how do you tie that data into taxiways and landing times, takeoff times, and closing the door? I'm just going from that all the way back into selling a ticket, which is a whole nother conversation. How should a pilot basically agree on how to reverse an airplane from the gate? Is it standardized? How can you figure out everybody's behavior, human behavior, and how to treat an airplane, how to land an airplane? What does that do to the brakes? What does that do to your fuel consumption? That's all data, right?
Yeah.
And the airline's practicing some of this stuff, but in probably 80 to 90%, absolutely not.
You just mentioned AI, so I'll ask you the question right away.
Right.
How do you see the role of AI and machine learning in shaping the future strategies for enhancing profitability in the airline industry?
Yeah, I think today machine learning is changing a ton of processes, right? If you just look at COVID, the way to basically figure out if your vaccination card was real, that's all ML and a bit of AI behind the scenes, right? It was able to read everything, read your passport, take a picture, read your passport, and validate with a database that you're for real. A bunch of those things are already happening. ML is already engaged. We may not be practicing it 100% across every aspect of the business, but it's here to stay and it's coming quickly. And I think the ecosystem of what I call the new airline services entrepreneurs, the airline business hasn't fostered that very well, right? To help bring all of these things to bat, right? Because most airlines just don't have the people to go solve every problem. So they need an ecosystem of folks that should be solving their problems for them, right? And normally this wouldn't come out of a 20-year-old that doesn't know anything about the business. It comes out of people who understand the business, right? And who can use all sorts of talent to make stuff happen, right? Some of us are in that space, but we see that dearth of support, right? Because there's a lack of understanding of what it takes to make this work in this business. The other thing I'll tell you is AI is going to take time because it requires data. It requires to learn. Everybody's crazy about ChatGPT, and all of the other applications you see, but that's generative AI. What is it doing? It's learning everything that's out there, right? And just regurgitating it in a smarter way, right? That's step one. And we're already in step two. Contextual, where it starts to take that information, use new data, and apply new learnings to your algorithms and improve your algorithms. That's a whole nother conversation.
Let's see.
Right? And I'm not sure in the airline business, the operators of the airlines want their core commercial IP and the core operational IP to be used by third parties that have no vested interest in them. They may have to create their own AI, what I call their own AI strongholds, and protect that.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
that's when you can make a lot of people obsolete.
Definitely. And talking about that, how can airlines ensure that data privacy and security are guaranteed while leveraging data and automation by using artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Well, the data has to be stored somewhere, right? So your initial data, you're creating a ton of data in the airline business, just from the airplanes themselves to just the selling process and to the product creation and customer service issues and all the financial transactions that go on. Your data infrastructure is what you need to have a strategy on. And every CIO that doesn't have a significant data infrastructure and a way to actually monetize that as IP or protect that as IP, as a CEO, that will be one of my biggest concerns. As a board member, that's one of my biggest concerns. Where is it? What is it? And how are you protecting it? Right? Because everything's stored in there, right? And yes, everybody wants to move to the cloud. Everybody likes the sweet stuff, but the fundamentals are not there. If you don't have the fundamentals, then people are going to break into it. But I don't know you're going to ever stop the hackers from coming after you. They will. They're faster than you are. You have to react fast enough, and you have to be in the world of creating folks who can hack your system privately and positively to tell you where you have faults. It is a practice, and you have to have that. People are not willing to pay for that, but you have to. It's like putting burglar proof in specific houses, or alarms, or anti-theft systems. You already know you have to do it. No one's telling you need to do it. You go do it, and you're going to pay for it. It's just part of living. As part of a business today, hacking is going to be the new bank robbery, I guess, and the new corporate theft process. So yeah, we have to make sure we have the right systems that tell us when the stuff is happening. And yeah, AI can help you because you can see if somebody's tapping into your systems, and if the transactions are abnormal, and if you can detect if somebody's trying to copy the way your normal business works, and highlight those guys and go after them. But not my complete area of expertise. The other folks who are doing that, but yeah, everybody has to do that. They have no choice.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. So now I want to talk about mass customization.
Yeah.
How does the airline industry handle the complexity that comes with mass customization without compromising the quality of the product or service they offer? Is
Well,
that something that you've seen around? Yeah.
I haven't seen it done very well. And the proposition to unbundling is that I want to choose the way I want to travel, and I want to pay for the way I want to travel, right? And the question is, can you deliver the way I want to travel at every seat on an airplane, at every counter on an airplane, at every airport in an airplane, every country in an airplane? If you can do that, then everybody's experience could be different. I'm not saying that's the way it's going to go. And you can price differently, and therefore not create a commodity product. When you dumb down a product, it becomes a commodity.
Yeah.
Now, biggest issue today, if I see no difference flying airline A, airline B, airline C, entertainment is the same, food is the same, seats are the same, planes are the same, the layout is the same, the experience is the same, I will not pay a differential price.
Definitely not. Yeah.
And so what happens is you're only as smart as your dumbest competitor. And the first person to take down price, and when anything happens, everybody comes down.
Yeah.
So the only way to do that is to have a differentiating factor with your brand, right? And the question there is, what is that differentiating factor? And every business where you don't have that, they all die a pretty quick death, right? Or a slow death, whichever way you want. The car business was that way. There's really no difference in U.S. car companies. And where do they end up? At the bottom, right?
Yeah.
There's no difference between the Japanese car companies and the Korean car companies. Where do we end up? Korean car companies are doing better than Japanese car companies. Then there was the Musks of the world, and now you've got Teslas, and you've got other guys trying to come up. And we got to copy quick because they're not innovating fast enough and not creating that position. I'm not saying these things are easy, but if it is a part of your culture to disrupt and to innovate across the board, then you can fight these fights very quickly, right? And adapt yourself. And if you don't have that culture, then you're just waiting to follow, right? And any business waiting to follow gets to the whims of an industry, right? And we know our industry has lots of uncontrollables. The other thing I would say about this is you may not be able to mass customize, you may be able to mass differentiate, meaning not by individual, but by groups. And so, yes, you're going to create these experiences for different groups. But I'll give you one key experience, living in the US, Canada, and North America. When you're trying to board an airplane, everybody has one, group 1, group 2, group 3, pre-board. And it speaks of classism. I'm not saying you what, but I don't know what that differentiation is. Right? It just doesn't feel right. right? And so the philosophies have to evolve in such a way that if I am going to walk through at any time and board at any time, then that product ensures my carry-on, if I have one, will always have a place. All I have to do is walk in. I'm already recognized when I walk in. I never have to wait. And I don't have to inconvenience the people who are taking the time to board by time or whatever group position there are. And if you can differentiate that, people feel much better. Now you just have people waiting in line. That's not an experience. I didn't go to an airport to sit down and be waiting in line. Why? We have to think differently. And it requires us to think hard, but we have to think differently.
Absolutely.
We always boil it down to the lowest common denominator and keep it simple.
Okay.
And we wonder why we can't raise prices.
Yeah. Now, what role, in your opinion, technology can play in that mass differentiation, as you would rather say it, in a large-scale business like an airline?
Well, it is everything. And the second piece of it is when there's no electricity, as you find in some parts of the world, how do you deliver that service? And you see that happen here when weather becomes a problem. You know, if there's a tornado, there's no electricity. The hurricane, winter storm, boom, everything goes dark. And what do? There's chaos everywhere. So in as much as you want complete mass customization, you've got to understand, can it survive these extremes? And when these extremes happen, it was when everybody has everything bad to say about you. So you must manage to these extremes because they will happen. Unless if or when they will happen, right? And it may take you 10 years to get there, but it will happen. So technology is everything at that. Power is everything at that. Having the two and managing for those in such a way that it's delivered at every point for you to have those options for your service delivery professionals, the customer front lines can deliver that attention, right? If I'm in coach, I'm in the middle seat, but you know that I wanted a great meal. And you're able to walk up to me and say, sir, here's a great meal, and I paid $25 for that great meal. I should hype that up as a service delivery personnel for Chris on seat 25B, right? In the middle seat. Because that's the only thing that was going to make this happy for me. Because I'm in the middle seat and with two other big guys, and I'm a big guy myself. So I'm not happy on that trip. In fact, and I paid $500 for a trip. I'm really unhappy about that, right? We have to eliminate those guys so they're always happy. So you've got to do other things to make them happy, right? So how do you deliver that service? And how do you ensure that customer frontline person knows that person and knows how to make that person's life easy? And how do you know what to offer that person knowing they have those seats? Right? Yeah. So there are many things that I wouldn't go into all of them, but whether it's ability to exchange experiences, whether it's ability to skip and look for an alternate position that makes it worth my while, or whether it's the ability to enhance the experience and make me see those offers so that all I think about is the great stuff, which is the pure margin position. The ways to make that work, we just have to think, right? And we just have to be pretty active about that and not lazy about it.
Okay.
These are not projects. The other thing in the business, this is not a project. This is a program. This is how your business works every day.
I see. Now, having said that, and you mentioned earlier in this interview that airlines still have legacy systems that do not talk to each other, which are hurting them.